Tonight's panel, Darren, I said, Joanna Martellana, we're waiting for Jonathan Davis, not just us in the studio, but of course the Jonathan Davis fan club is also waiting with bated breath on the arrival of... Oh, here, Jonathan, he's here. His fan club can rest easy. Jonathan, welcome to the panel. I never realised you actually have a fan club.
You're not the only one.
You know, Darren, this is Joanna, Darren,
Nice
Jonathan. Marion says, Rob, I haven't got a question. Just say miserable, pessimistic. Jonathan Davies is on again. Blimey, I'm always getting to like him, like Victor Meldrew.
Oh, you want to be careful where you go there. No. There are some people you don't want to like, and to compare me with Victor Meldrew, well, all I can say about that is, I don't believe it.
Well, I'll tell you when the next meeting of the Jonathan Davis fan club is happening, and we hope perhaps to turn up and buy T-shirts for this such a glorious event. Welcome, Jonathan. Panel, should we be concerned at Japan's warning to the UK? Japan's government has warned that Brexit could result in the country's firms moving their European head offices out of Britain. Now, apparently the strongly worded report from Japan's foreign ministry says the firms might want to move if EU laws cease to be applicable in the UK. It called on Theresa May's government to deal with the company's concerns in a responsible manner. Darren, should we be concerned at Japan's strongly worded warning?
No, you said we were going to keep all the Brexit stuff for when Jonathan got here, and we're going to let him have a crack on it, and then I'm first. Now I just find it. How is that? Yeah, and I'm waiting for the avalanche to come, and also the fan club will probably start testing it as well. I think we should be concerned. I still don't think it was the right decision, and I think there are problems ahead, and I do think that it will take a very, very, very careful judgment on behalf of the government now to actually work out what the next steps are. But I think, as they say, the decision is made, and Brexit is Brexit.
Do you think they know? That's a good one. Someone else will use it. Do you think they know what their next step is going to be?
No, of course not. No, I don't think anyone. And I think there's a plan that is being formulated. Obviously, one would hope so. But I think from the day that the referendum was held through to this point in time, I don't think there's any particular clarity on it. There's talks about the invoking coming in 2017. So nothing's going to happen this year anyway. I think people have been left with a decision they weren't expecting. And still don't know what the sort of path is for the future.
Okay, Joanna, wait for this. Jonathan Davis, should we be concerned at Japan's warning to the UK? Let's all stand back.
Not in the slightest. If they want to go, let them go. We live in a free world. This is the Japanese government, it's not the Japanese businesses. Are we seriously suggesting that Nissan and Toyota, etc., have to do what their government tells them to do? No. If Nissan thinks it's appropriate to be in Sunderland, they'll stay in Sunderland. If they think it's appropriate to be in Munich with BMW, then they'll go there. No, it's absolute nonsense. I think we can treat this with like a joke that it is.
So no concern at all then? It's like this threat, because it is almost a threat. It's not just the car companies, it's the finance. I think finance companies like Mitsubishi, for example, big finance companies.
We should be threatened by other governments. Barack Obama said that we would go to the back of the queue if we voted to Brexit. Well, of course, you can see practically every country in the world now, Japan is an interesting exception, coming forward at a rate of pace saying, please do a trade deal with us. Australia, New Zealand, Canada, even America. Can you seriously believe that the chief executive of BMW, VW, Audi, Mercedes, they're not going to be banging on the door of Frau Merkel's office saying we must do a trade deal with Britain? No.
Well, she might not be there.
Well, indeed, that's the case. But look, 17-odd million people voted for Brexit. They didn't vote for a manifesto, as has been suggested. They voted to leave the EU. Currently, we're in the EU. Apparently, we're going to initiate Article 50 in the early part of 2017. Bring it on, I can't wait. And that means by 2019 we'll be out of the EU, out of the disgraceful bureaucratic, undemocratic bureaucracy, pardon the repetition of the word, and we can do trade deals with anyone in the world. Okay. It'll be fantastic.
Joanna, should we be concerned at Japan's warning to the UK? I mean, can we dismiss their report into the British economy?
Well, I don't think the report should be dismissed, but interestingly, before my life as a business coach, action coach, I actually worked in investment banking for 12 years in the city, and my very last stint as a business consultant was at Nomura International PLC. Interestingly, the Japanese culture is very different from our culture. I've worked at Standard Chartered Bank and Emerging Markets Bank, and going back to your point, actually, you know, again, why would a large international bank like Nomura International PLC pull out of the city when all its competitors will remain? So, you know, at the end of the day, I don't think it's a huge concern. I personally feel that in any situation, in any market condition, in business, it's about looking for the opportunities. I've worked, and I do have a client who actually started his business in the recession in 2008, and now it's a 30 million turnover business. So I'm a firm believer that whatever market conditions we go through, whether it's Brexit, recession, whatever it is, as business owners, we have responsibility to ourselves to find those opportunities. There are opportunities everywhere. So it's up to us to determine who do we want to be. Do we want to be the victims, or do we want to actually move forward and find a way forward?
There's always surveys, but one survey this week suggests that 2/3 of British adults, 62%, say they are positive about Britain's future post-Brexit, according to a Commerce survey. However, it also suggests that 1 in 4 people have thought about leaving the UK and living elsewhere following the referendum, and the figure is higher amongst younger people. 43% of 18 to 34-year-olds have thought about leaving Britain and living elsewhere. This is all post-Brexit. The survey is conducted by phone of just over 1,000 people. Darren, I gauge that perhaps you wanted to remain. Have you thought, this is terrible, I want to leave?
No, I've not thought it's terrible. I want to leave. I don't think you would, in your right mind, think you want to leave. And I think, yeah, you know, the decision's made, and that's what I've said. The decision's made, so you've got to make the best of it. And there's 62% of the population saying, yeah, I'm going to be positive. But they're making the best of it. They're not actually deciding this is the right course of action to take. They're just making the best of a bad job. And this is unfortunately what we're doing. And yeah, you can say these are hollow threats, and these are threats from America and Obama and the Japanese, etc.
He won't be there much longer either.
Well, which is great, and Frau Merkel and all the rest of them, but why would we be in a position, is it a good position to be in, where other countries are making threats, whether they're economic threats or otherwise to them?
There were threats on both sides in the build-up, of course, but this latest survey seems to suggest there are a number of people who, certainly younger people, who are panicking, John, and thinking, well, if they're starting their financial life, they want to start it elsewhere, but where?
Well, my point here is, when we look at that category, the 18 to 34-year-olds, just after the millennial generation, I think we need to be finding out more and answering the question, but why? Because it's not just about Brexit. You know, this, I think, has deeper seated issues around how do people get onto the property ladder, as an example. You know, in the UK, we are obsessed with owning property, but you go somewhere to France, other places in Europe, even in the States, there isn't this obsession about property ownership. And also, I just think that at the moment, you know, we've got this generation coming through. I mean, today I was talking with a business owner, and I come across this issue frequently about finding people who want to work, people with the right work ethic, people who, you know, these days, you know, people come out of university and they want everything handed on a plate to them. Where has that work ethic gone about working from the bottom, working your way up, and proving yourself before you reap the reward? So is there an element of the grass is greener? And where is that grass greener, as you asked?
Jonathan, this survey seems to suggest that younger people, a large proportion of them, would like to leave Britain and start living elsewhere, start their financial life elsewhere. Where would you start your life again?
Well, where are they going to go? That's exactly the question. Where are they going to go?
The grass is always greener, apparently.
Well, exactly. And was this survey actually done by the pollsters who said that the Remain was going to win? Every single poll was saying so.
It was a phone survey of just over, I think, 1,200 people by phone. I mean, to be honest with you, if they phoned me a few weeks ago in the middle of Coronation Street and said, would you like to leave the country? I would have said yes too.
Look, they're saying 43% of young adults are saying they've thought about leaving Britain and living elsewhere. As we say, where are they going to go? Where there are the job opportunities, certainly in the Western world. I can't see it. People think about Australia. Do you really want to go halfway across the world?
Big spiders and snakes.
And Australians.
And Australians, yeah, that really hurt you off.
And
They should go to Bali. Bali's a great place for
no
new
doubt.
business.
For a holiday,
No, even for new business. Bali's
Yeah,
a
really?
big place now for new business. It's very up and coming as a country, yeah.
the thing is, though, that the global economy is slowing down. That's a given. China's slowing down. America's slowing down. These are the two largest economies on the planet. That's an economic given. And youngsters, as Joanna quite rightly said, they have it tough. They seriously do. When I graduated a couple of odd decades ago, I got myself a graduate training job, and the pay was pretty good. It wasn't brilliant, it was pretty good. It was a decent starting salary, and I've taken it from there. But now, a third of graduates are working in call centres or in shops. They're earning the minimum wage, and they've got student debt. It's a totally different situation to even 15 or 20 years ago. No wonder the youngsters are teed off. I would be if I was starting out just now.
let's take some trouble. Just come back with our panel, Jonathan, Darren and Joanna, straight after the headlines. Welcome back. Nice panel tonight. Jonathan Davis from Hertfordshire, Wealth Fund Manager and Broadcaster. Darren Isted from Spitfire PR, former newspaperman. And Joanna Mastorano from Hertfordshire, Action Coach. For and quite a substantive career in the city before.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
okay. And you found, Darren, some mannequins for you.
Yeah, there's. I just
Sorry,
say.
Jonathan missed this. We were talking about M&S.
No, I heard it on the way. I've got a car radio.
They have got the weirdest mannequin.
Yeah.
Unless someone in the store in London Colney just puts them in this really weird position.
Well, there are. I've just been on Twitter, so that's all I've done so far. But I've had a little look on Twitter, a little rummage around.
So it must be true.
There's definitely true. There's lots of debates going on. So this is just out there for everyone. There's debates on all kinds of mannequins. So we've got black mannequins, gay mannequins,
Well,
big boobed mannequins,
Do you remember
teenage
the film
mannequins.
Mannequin?
Oh,
I remember
yeah,
the
great
film.
film.
The film
What a brilliant
Mannequin is
film.
on there as well. I was
Love
coming
that
to that.
film. That was a great Mannequin.
One of
There's
my
lots.
favourite films.
There's lots for you to find out tonight. You can have a little
Kim
look
Cattrall.
around.
I just worry that if I go home tonight and start Googling mannequins, I'll end up doing something really unpleasant. And perhaps my search engine will be pestered with all sorts of things that they shouldn't be.
From mannequin to Sex in the City, Kim Cattrall.
Yeah, Kim Cattrall.
Okay.
I keep raising these stories with panellists on the Tuesday night, but I don't think anything will change. It was just to remind us of what the harsh realities of not being rich and famous. Sausages and tax. Amazon and Starbucks pay less tax in Austria than a local sausage stall, the country's chancellor has said in a newspaper interview. Christian Kern said every Viennese cafe, every sausage stand pays more tax in Austria than a multinational corporation. No one's going to be surprised. This story keeps coming up. Last week we heard about Apple. They're very angry that they've been exposed to paying a 0.005% income tax or corporation tax. You can't take it with you when you leave. Some of these big multinationals are very, very... I mean, the board of directors that have more money than they can ever spend. Surely it should be about leaving a pleasant aroma when you leave. Jonathan, you can't take it with you.
We're talking about corporation tax, we're talking about personal wealth.
Well, corporation tax and personal wealth. I mean, the fact that these corporations, they don't break the law, but they actively seek to minimise the taxation they pay.
First of all, I think that we are charged too much tax. Governments decide what they're going to spend, then they work out how they're going to take money off us. However, there is a corporation tax system, which as far as I'm concerned is totally corrupt. How is it possible that international businesses who do business, make vast profits, say in the UK, base themselves in Ireland or the Cayman Islands or something like that? No, they should pay the appropriate level of tax in the country that you make your profits. I don't get how you can you can have your headquarters somewhere else but actually do business. So it's entirely anathema to me that these multinational companies, you mentioned Amazon, Starbucks, Apple, and Google last year was in the news. Yeah, it's an outrage that small business people not making fortunes are paying, say, 20% of the profits on tax, and these guys are paying less than 1%. To me, that's a joke.
Darren, I have broached this subject with my accountant. He just can't stop laughing when I mention this. It's not going to change. It's just that even in Austria, the chancellor says every sausage stall in Austria pays more tax than Amazon and Starbucks.
It's true, and I don't want to do a Nick Clegg moment, but I agree with John. It's just, I want my 20%, please, and I know I'm going to be stumping up my 20% plus or less or a bit more or a tiny bit, depending on how good my accountants are. But how can major companies get away with that? It just seems absolutely
very angry,
absolutely ridiculous. And I don't know. Perhaps it's coming back to our independent states thing. Perhaps this is what Brexit's all about. Perhaps this is what a country will make up its own rules, will stand alone, and be able to say to businesses that come and trade and try and make profits in there that they're going to take the full whack and the full amount and make those decisions independently. But it's inherently wrong, it's inherently incorrect when people are punished for not paying the proper amount of tax as a small business, and then you see that happening. It's just infuriating.
Joanna?
So I'd just like to play devil's advocate here for a moment. It is morally and ethically wrong from the perspective of the small to medium-sized business. However, when you look at wealth management and you look at large corporations, what do they bring to the economy? What they do bring to the economy are jobs. So I don't know if any of you here around the table have heard of remuneration trusts, but remuneration trusts are very much about large corporations, big businesses actually keeping the money to reinvest back into the economy. This is why the government allows it. So until the government actually agrees, and by the way, HMRC themselves use remuneration trusts, yet we don't talk about what HMRC are doing. There's a reason why these laws exist, because actually they benefit the economy in some other way. So just be the devil's advocate, I'm not saying that I actually condone.
You're right.
But this is out there because
a company like Apple, for example, they've got more money than most countries.
Yes.
Okay, and there's a new product coming out this week, and people will be queuing up around the block for a phone that won't even have a jack to put your headphones in anymore. Okay, and they can't, and they want this product. Of course, all the profits are still going to Ireland. I mean, how much money do the people at Apple need? Or surely. Say you can't take it with you. There's only so many yachts, cars, houses. Is anybody?
How much money do they spend in social corporate responsibility? How much money do they give to charity? So I watched a programme the other evening. I can't remember which one was it about billionaires, and it looked at actually those individuals super wealthy and how much actually they do in terms of philanthropy and how much money they give back.
Bill Gates is very philanthropic.
Yes, so Bill Gates, the likes of those. So, like I said, I don't condone it. However, it's there for a reason. When I look at, if we want to talk about building an economy with jobs for people, these businesses create jobs.
And that's the reason why they shouldn't pay tax? Are we seriously suggesting that Google and Apple and Amazon isn't going to do business in the UK if they paid instead 1% tax, they paid 10% tax? No, it's an outrage that they can do business in this country but base their apparent pretend headquarters in the Caribbean. No, that is fraud as far as I'm concerned, and unfortunately it's allowed by countries, it's allowed by governments, and that's what needs to stop. The politicians need to get to grips with this. This is not good enough.
They're frightened. Because Apple already said they may pull out of Ireland and there's several thousand jobs that could go.
Yeah, and HSBC said before Brexit, if we go for Brexit, we might go to Frankfurt. Yeah, I remember saying to you, Roberto, it's like the unicorn, I'll believe it when I see it. These companies, and Japan, we've just heard it already, we've been discussing it, they are making idle threats. They're not going to pull out of this country, for example, if they can make vast profits in this country by providing the excellent goods and services that Joanna discusses. Absolutely. And if we charge them more tax, they're also not going to pull out because they're still going to make vast profits.
21 minutes to 7, a story that my team have been very keen for me to either mention or one member of my team trying to get me to drop the story together. If you're the generous one who always makes the tea in the office, will people look down on you? There's a story that appeared in one newspaper. It said why women should never make tea or coffee at work. It's just one of the little things, one of the little ways you could be sabotaging your career. 2 high-flying British businesswomen have written a book detailing ways to succeed in your industry, including never pouring the tea if you're the only female in the room. Joanna, you are the only female in the room. Because in any workplace, whether it's a factory, an office, the people who make the tea and coffee are always the same. The people who wash the cups, who make the drinks, they're always the same people. It's always the same people who don't clean up. Right? If you do that in an office, whether you're a man or a woman, does that hinder your career?
Well, I've worked in corporate world, I've worked in investment banking, and in that industry, being a woman in a male-dominated industry like that, at the end of my career, I was a program manager, so I had reached quite a high level. My last program, I was the only woman in the board, in the governance for this particular program. It's a $260 million program globally, and I was the program manager. Every time I went into that boardroom, there would be tea and there would be coffee there at the table. It was enough that I was just the only woman in that room, and I never poured a cup of tea for anybody else in that room. And I do actually agree with that, because when you're a woman in that environment, naturally people would see me as an administrator or a PA.
Even though you're running the program?
Even though I'm running the program. So it's much harder for a woman, especially in that type of industry, to really actually put yourself ahead and be seen on an equal level. So I would agree in that instance, yes, that I think as women we should see ourselves as equals, and one of those is, why can't a man pour me a cup of tea?
Very nice then.
I'm really puzzled by these kind of things, because I think either think the question you're asking is a really serious question. I think it's a very profound question about women's roles in businesses and if women are overlooked and glass ceilings and pay, etc., or it's kind of complete nonsense and you shouldn't even be asking the question, because, you know, I'll pour a cup of tea, someone can pour me a cup of tea, I see a one woman and there's 20 men. I don't know whether I'm being naive. I wouldn't judge that in any kind of way. Now, possibly people do that, but I can't see that's even an issue. I wouldn't judge that.
Be that in some workplaces, it is the perception that if there's a woman or a number of women there, they're the ones that do the washing up. They're the ones that should make tea and coffee.
But I think it's more than that, because I think it's more about the perception that if you do that, can that then hinder or sabotage your prospects?
Well, yeah, because you'll always be seen as the person.
And is it a perception that they should or that they do? Because obviously those are two wildly different things. Are you saying that women do tend to do that, and are there people in 3 counties at the moment in the studio listening to this saying, we always do, or is it the perception that they should do?
Well, because young Coral, who works on the programme, never been touched by human hands, for Immaculate Conceptions, she always makes she's coffeeing me out, as always. I've got reserved coffee here. But of course she makes it, because I can't get up. If I could get up during the middle of the programme, if we played Staircase to Heaven, I'd make tea and coffee for Coral and Tara. No problem at all.
It's outrageous to even suggest that that there's a perception that a certain kind of person, whether it's a woman, whether it's a man.
That in the 3 counties office, the number of people who always say, does anyone want a cup of tea or coffee? It's always the same people.
I'm always happy to make somebody a cup of tea. But I think, for me, I look at it as there are certain industries, certain professions, where I think as a woman, you need to be perceived on a level. So I wouldn't say, no, I wouldn't make a cup of tea if I was working with one of my clients today. I'd be more than happy to make them a cup of tea. But looking at more of the professional services industries, I do think that women need to project themselves in such a way that they are seen as equals.
Jonathan Davis.
When you started talking about this,
tea or coffee, but he does have a very good brandy on cognac.
When you started talking about this, I immediately started thinking about that very high level intellectual TV series, Big Brother. Perfectly seriously, although I don't watch it anymore, it's been going 10 years or something now, I can't believe it. But I did avidly watch the first few series, and do you know what? It's pretty clear to me that the people who stayed on towards the end were the nicest, the friendliest, the most helpful of the group. And that included making the tea, washing up, cleaning up. Rightly or wrongly, they contributed something to the group, to the team. And in a practical world, the question is, should women make a cup of tea? I would say It depends. It depends whether or not the women believe they can get something from it. If they believe they can, then doing that ultimately generous and selfless task could actually produce something back for them.
So you're suggesting if you want to get on in the world of finance, corporate banking or PR or broadcasting, you need to be the one that is disposable. I mean, I've got my own cleaning products in the cupboard, but you need to be the one, seriously, you need to be the one that goes above and beyond.
In a manner of speaking, and obviously not in an overtly, I'll do this for you if you do this for me, but in ultimately a smart way. People will notice if you're helpful and nice.
We'll take some troubles to come back with tonight's panel. Jonathan Davis, Darren Eisted and Joanna Mastorana. It's 13 minutes to 7. Earlier we were talking about M&S, 500 jobs as to go to the head office, and I mentioned that perhaps one of their problems could be the mannequins aren't very good. And for the last 40 minutes, Darren Eisted has spent the entire time fiddling about with his tablet thing, looking at websites and things for mannequins.
Oh, is that what they were?
Oh,
I see.
What did you think they were?
Oh, thank goodness for that.
You took a very keen interest, John, though. I don't know what you say about this, but there is the debate is amazing on there at the moment. The big boob debate is the arguments for and against are going to actually
this is gonna cost
overtake
me.
Brexit. I tell you.
6 Hail Marys tonight, this, do you know that? And there are actually websites dedicated to whole discussions about mannequins.
Yeah, there's a story on there online about a man who actually died and left behind a catalogue,
yes.
of mannequins. Amazing, absolutely
This
amazing.
is a guy somewhere in the middle of the States somewhere. He's a family man, and he's been collecting and building his own mannequins because mannequins available weren't ample enough.
Exactly.
So he's passed away, and he's left like a giant warehouse full of large mannequins.
I bet he was trying weird science.
Which is good. What happens if you become too ill to work? Ill health or disability is forcing 1 in 8 people to stop working before they reach the state pension age, according to the DUC. It found almost 500,000 people have had to leave work for medical reasons within 5 years before they were due to retire. Now, in March, the government announced an independent review into the state pension age. Those in the lowest paid jobs or in manual work are also twice as likely to stop working for health reasons than managers or professionals. Joanna, what happens if you become too ill to work?
Well, one of the first things I would recommend to people is to see if they're entitled to critical health insurance. Obviously, when we're looking at the demographics of the sorts of people who are having to leave work early, it's probably a question of affordability. So I would actually encourage businesses to actually help and support their staff in critical health insurance. The other challenge there, though, some of us actually can't get critical health insurance. So I think it's definitely a responsibility on businesses to support their employees in that area.
Darren?
I think you assume that you're not going to get any money, that you're probably not going to get any insurance anyway, because it probably, if you're in that kind of category where you're in a lower paid job, there probably won't be any insurance on that as well. And you're going to have to rely on what you can. Probably have to rely on, if you've got a property, that you're going to actually survive off the back of that. But I think it does begin, as Joanna says, it begins at the very beginning with the businesses. If there are businesses that are putting people into the state that they will be ill or actually causing illness initially, that's where the problem's occurring, surely.
What happens to all those people who are self-employed?
Exactly. Well, that's me. No insurance. Just I'm waiting for my. Hope there's a property that might bail you out.
Okay. Jonathan?
If you're self-employed or you run stroke own your own business, if you haven't insured yourself, and I'm a wealth manager, is what I do for a living, if you haven't insured yourself, then you are putting yourself at so much financial risk. Technically, if I may correct you, Joanna, is income protection insurance. It's arguably the most important insurance a self-employed individual should have, because of course your income is the most valuable asset you have, and if you think about it, even more valuable than your house over a 25-30 year period. Most folk will qualify for income protection insurance, and indeed if you have a plan which pays out after 12 months of long-term illness, it's actually not that expensive. because there's not that many illnesses which last more than 12 months. Even if you're in in manual work, there are plans available to you, and I totally agree with Joanna. Employers who employ manual labourers have a responsibility to them and their families, as responsible families, for putting in place a company income protection plan for each of their members of staff. And as a group policy, it's not that expensive per capita.
But for individuals, perhaps you're not in the youth of life, you're perhaps majority of life, is it still viable?
Well,
affordable?
If you buy it in your 40s and you take it up to state pension age, say 67, 68, it's not that expensive. If you start looking around at age 60, then yes, you're up the creek. That's where you have to rely on savings. And again, as a wealth manager, you shouldn't just be relying on the state to look after you if anything befalls. You need to look after yourself. They'll look after banks, they won't look after us.
I think you've got to make the assumption the state won't look after you. I mean, my assumption is that there isn't a pension. I've got a pension from a business, but I don't think that's going to pay me out. I'm pretty sure the state won't be looking after me as well, and if they do, that will be an added bonus. So I think people do rely or fall back on property, not because they want to or they think actually it's a guarantee, because that's all they've got. That's all there is.
Is that a sensible?
Of course it's not. No, of course not. Insurance, I haven't got insurance, but it's a complete punt. It's a complete gamble. So I'm playing a treble here, and I'm hoping that I won't need insurance by not having insurance. If I do, then yeah.
Because the thing is, we all think we're going to live forever, and we can carry on working until, because that whole platform has changed. The idea of working till 65 or 60 is gone. Most people think they can work way beyond that, and that's great. But certainly in manual kind of jobs, there will be mornings. And Johnny, you haven't got this too young, but there will be mornings when you probably just get away with it, Darren. But there will be mornings when you wake up thinking, "Oh, my back is killing me. I can't do this anymore." What does that feel like, Jonathan?
Well, I do have a bad back now and again, so it feels awful. But that's the point. As you get into your 50s and 60s, I'm forever saying I'm not getting any younger anymore. Back to Victor Meldrew. You have to plan for these things because demographically, statistically, we're pretty well all going to get old. We have to look after ourselves financially, and if that means taking out insurance, you take out insurance. Most people have got life assurance. Thing is, most of us will live forever, or at least until we're into our 80s and 90s. What we don't have is even more important insurance, which is income protection insurance.
May I ask you a question, Jonathan, on that income protection? So I have a question for you, Jonathan. What about for those people who have critical illness and therefore struggle to get insurance? So how does an existing critical disability impact income insurance?
Well, clearly, if you have existing conditions, insurers will not insure you for those conditions. But we're talking about the 95% who don't have these conditions, who could plan for this possible eventuality.
Okay. Can I tell you about this lady called Jean? This is a woman who works on the chilled counter and has the store, and says she has no plans to give up her day job as she's celebrated her 89th birthday. Jean Cockayne has worked at the supermarket in Nottinghamshire since 1971 and said she feels she has plenty of life left in her. Colleagues celebrated her birthday on August 19th with an afternoon tea and handed her a bouquet of flowers in store, which presumably they purchased in store. She said, "I won't stop until I physically can no longer work. I feel like I've got plenty of life left in me." Now, it's a nice story. These stories come up every now and again. It's not unique, but isn't it better to be able to retire and enjoy life rather than the idea of working till you drop?
But clearly, she's enjoying her life.
She hasn't seen what life was. There is more to life than working on the chilled counter at Asda.
But maybe that's her purpose in life.
How
you know?
do you
so
know? How do you? You've been stuck in here for 30 years.
There's got to be more to life than the chilled counter.
But then we hear all the stories, the sad stories of people who work all their life, they work hard, they stop to enjoy and retire and to enjoy their properties, investments or holidays, and then they drop dead. I mean, how many people, we see it a lot, especially in the Italian community. I'm a believer that when your mind stops or when you lose that purpose or sense of purpose, unless you've got something else that you have already determined, when I retire, I am going to do X. I think people lose their soul, and that's actually part of why people need to work and continue to.
The clear statistics are that the average age of male mortality is
Don't scare us now.
about 85 or 86, and female a couple of years older. So if you do retire in, say, your 60s, late 60s, then statistically you have another 20 years. Certainly in the old days when more of us did manual work, and life was a great deal tougher than it is today, and we didn't have the nutrition and the sports facilities, etc., then yes, previously people did die after just a few years post-retirement, but that's not so much the case now. Hence, we've got a burgeoning industry in long-term care, and we've got a massive problem, or a good thing depending on your point of view, of so many centenarians and indeed 110-year-olds coming on stream. No, if this lady is happy working, good luck to her. Good luck on you. What's your name? Jean. Well done to you. But Joanna's right. Most people, and Rob, you said it's that most people do not want to work into their 80s. I certainly hope I won't have to. I hope I'll be in, I don't know, France or somewhere like that in 10
If they
years'
let
time.
you in. I mean, Brexit might not let you in anymore.
Okay, Cornwall then.
Dan, where can people find out more about you and Spitfire PR?
www.spitfirepr.com, and if you take a look on social media platforms, try and get past the mannequin sites.
Still
And
doing that.
well, they're popular at the moment, they're big. And take a look at hashtag hearts, www.hashtaghearts.com as well for the magazines.
Joanna, where can they find out more about you?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Action Coach Joanna Martirana. You can find me on the web at www.actioncoach.com/Joanna Martirana. And you can find me at engageandgrow.com.
Was that Ray Winston with you on your holiday picture?
Yes, that was Ray Winston.
Jonathan Davis.
My website is jonathandaviswm, as in wealthmanager.com.
And where can the Jonathan Davis fan club next see you in action?
Well, I'm fascinated by this thing. I must contact them, see if they'll let me in.
Well, you can contact both of them if you like. Yeah.
Well, I'm amazed there's even two of them. Has my wife been talking to you again recently?
That's 3 people. It's growing by the minute.
That's 3 more than we've got.
I'm a fan now as well.
That's 4.
Oh my goodness me.
There will be T-shirts soon. There'll be bunting. There'll be a
I'll tell you,
celebration.
with this demand, with the level of demand, I'm going to have to increase the subscription fee.